Hey, what's going on?
Yo, GM.
Yo, good morning, Chad. How was your space yesterday?
It was fun. Yeah, it was a good one, I think. Seemed like a lot of people liked it. Chad B popped in, talked about the order books a little bit, which that was a bit of a spark of excitement. So that was cool.
Oh yeah, that order book idea is really cool. It gave me an idea for a really cool another feature like like TWAP buying or something like that. Like basically, you could use that same type of mechanic and do some kind of like TWAP buy or something using like a similar logic. Something like that would be really cool on THORChain.
Right, like just base it off of some kind of calculation rather than just setting a price exactly.
Yeah, you just send in like an end block and you send in a certain amount of coins and you specify the swap and then the amount of buys for it to do over that amount of time. And it could just average, basically just like, say there's N buys, it just equally averages out that many buys and, you just average in automatically.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, people, it kind of like, even if somebody's using Coinbase or something, they might set up like daily, weekly buys or whatever. So that's another good like feature to have on chain.
Yeah, I would definitely use that, especially if that means you only have to pay, like if you're doing it with stable coin, like if you're doing it with like USDC, that would just convert it. It would be a synth, right? If you're doing it with the same logic as the order book feature. So you'd also just get rid of all those fees too.
Yeah, that'd be sick. There's so many cool things. I was getting ahead of myself a little and wondering if it would be possible with the aggregator. We were talking about that a little bit. Sounds like the swap out would be tricky, if I recall. Maybe I'm thinking backwards. I'm still kind of getting it together here.
Yeah. But, I don't see how it could work with a swap in. You mean because you need to start from an asset that starts with that is on THORChain. If you start with an asset that's on THORChain, you can just swap out of it afterwards. But if you want to, start with random ERC20 token, it really, there'd be no way to custody that unless you do it in a compatible asset.
Yeah, you'd have to, Mogark, you were saying it'd have to be like its own chain, or I guess at the very least, some kind of smart contract on that chain that like buys on Uniswap or whatever at a specified price. And then like automatically sends it into THORChain at that time. I don't know. It sounds complicated, but like it does get your mind going just because that would be crazy. I mean, imagine how sick that would be, but we might get 90% of that.
There's some people waiting to come up, but let's just, while we're waiting for Chad Barraford, we'll just see what everyone has to say here.
Let's do it.
Yo, got Green, Socrates, and Wilfred. What's up, guys? Hey, either. All right. Just wanted to hit the request button just for fun. All right. Sounds good.
Maybe technical difficulties.
Yeah. So I guess we start going into some things before Chad gets here. First off, I saw that THOReau just updated to the V2 app today. So the redesign looks really cool. And hopefully, like I know a lot of people use THOReau to track their LP position. So hopefully the new update is, really informative and easy to use and just makes it easier for people to track their LP positions. So I don't know if you have any info about the THOReau V2.
Yeah, it's live on iOS store and Android. So yeah, it's full redesign, much more user friendly, just a lot cleaner look. Shout out to the Bull from THORSwap for leading a lot of that. But yeah, it's great. You can set up different LP accounts as well. So if you want to like track different strategies under different sort of like tabs for your accounts, that's really cool. You can track Thor staking accounts in there. And you can also just do portfolio tracking. So you can just like add ETH addresses, BTC addresses, and so on, and just like track balances, even of ERC20 tokens, things like that. So you kind of use it as a portfolio tracker and LP tracker. So the goal is to kind of have it just be like the place you can check your overall positions. But I feel like the new design is a lot more addictive. So I know I'm going to be checking probably way too much, but yeah, people should definitely check it out. I think it's a really solid resource and a really big improvement. It's got kind of like a learn section as well. So all of like all the new guides for any new features and tutorials and stuff like that are right in the app as well. You can't like manage positions and things like that from this app. It's just for viewing, but great resource to just kind of be like checking on everything on the go.
Oh yeah, I saw the new Learn tab in the Medium article. That's actually a great idea because that's probably the number one barrier that stops people from, really understanding a lot about THORChain and the whole protocol itself. So I think that they'll learn, like, education's like the, kind of like the base level of all this. And, people need to have confidence and understand what they're doing when they deposit into an LP. So I think something like that is a great idea.
100%. Yeah, that's kind of been my main role with THORswap, is like making all the video guides every time new features are coming out and going over old stuff. But now, like, yeah, all of those are just going to be like right there in the app. So it should be a good resource to just kind of like keep people up to date on anything new that's coming out and how to do it. So,
morning, Chad.
Morning, Chad.
Sorry, guys, a little bit late on this. I was writing this like monster tweet thread and I just lost track of time. And all of a sudden I looked up and it was like 12:10.
Oh, it's all right. It's the order book thread you were teasing yesterday, huh?
Yeah, I'll share. I'll pin to the thing if you want to read it. They can read it. But I think it's gonna be awesome. I think order books you can kick ass for sure. Yeah,
I would love to just hear it from you on the space. Maybe after we go through a couple of the other updates, you can dive into this a bit.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Sweet.
So speaking of Thor yield, there was huge liquidity ads last night. I don't know if you guys saw that, like 12 hours ago.
Yeah, I did. That was pretty exciting. I mean, I saw it start off with the big Atom liquidity ad. Somebody added, I believe it was worth $1.2 million, the whole position. I was like, I forget the exact numbers, but that was pretty great to see. And then there were also some huge ETH and BTC ads, like within the same couple hours or so, I believe. So that was really awesome to see.
Yeah, it was like 400K rune and matching amount of Atom. And now it looks like the pool depth is well over 1 million. So, there's sufficient liquidity to do, mid-sized swaps on Atom pool already.
Yeah, 1.5 million.
It's only been live for like 2 days. Less than that, a little more than 36 hours since the Atom pool was officially launched with no seeded liquidity, by the way. So it is all organic liquidity coming in from, just regular LPs.
Yeah, it's one of the things I was hoping to see happen is that in the earlier days, like in the beta, the treasury would kind of kickstart things with liquidity and put in like, between $1 and $2 million typically, just to kind of get things going, get the dice rolling. But as we go up to mainnet and we kind of head down the path of decentralization, we want the individuals at the treasury to kind of like step back and let the community take over. And so like I'm just hoping that as time goes on, like the Atom community, and whatnot, it just starts kind of dumping more and more Atom into the pool and making that pool deeper, and which is just great for their project and their ecosystem, as well as great for THORChain as well.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to see it happen organically, just because it's the real deal. So that's really cool, and looks like there's some volume too. I'm seeing 92K for 24-hour period, so probably a little bit higher than that, I guess, since the real launch. But I'm sure we'll see that continue to pick up now that the liquidity is there. Now it's more usable. So then swap volume is going to pick up, which is going to attract more liquidity, hopefully. So yeah, it's really cool to see it just like off to the races fully organically this time. I guess this is kind of the first full like new chain being added just truly organically, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And the Nine Realms team is like, behind the scenes, they're kind of like talking to like influencers in that space, and like different people. They're trying to like garner support and garner knowledge and awareness, and so that when we actually do launch a chain, like we're launching it to a warmed community in a sense, and that they're ready to go and start adding liquidity, which we just saw. I actually have no idea who that person was. I don't have a clue, and it makes me excited that I don't know who it is. And so, like, I think we're going to hopefully see more of that, into the future.
And it's not just huge ads on Atom too. There's been huge ads in the ETH pools and the USDC pools. I've been seeing whale alerts go off like pretty much every day for liquidity ads on this.
Is that a bottom signal, you think? Like, you think people are like, it's a signal that the bottom's in or whatever?
That's kind of how I was feeling. I mean, if some of these big whales are getting more comfortable coming in, like that's seems like a pretty healthy sign, right? I remember I saw definitely there was like a 32 BTC, and whatever the equivalent rune was a pretty juicy one too. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, like the last few days have felt a bit bullish, but don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, maybe. But yeah,
it definitely means that people want price exposure to Rune, and they want to have a long position, and that's a great way to have a long position on Rune is to just deposit into a liquidity pool because you have a capped downside with impermanent loss protection, right? And it's basically like a free leveraged rune call, So like I could definitely see that as I mean, who knows what a bottom signal, you don't know what a bottom signal actually is until it's gone and passed, but
right, because you never know what's going to happen in the macro as well. Like the world economy just take a shit tomorrow, and it's going to affect everybody here as well, like in the crypto space. So you never know what's going to happen. I never try to time markets personally because I have no idea when things are going to go up or down, whatever. But it's pretty interesting though. I wonder if it's like part of it is just that this whole bear market kind of kicked off a month ago or maybe 2 months ago, however you want to define it, and oftentimes bear markets are like hard on projects for obvious reasons. Like the coin goes down, the morale goes down, people get disheartened, and sometimes like teams break apart or entire protocols just collapse upon themselves because they're just not structured, like designed well. And then on the THORChain side, if you think about it, like, okay, the price went down just like everything else in the world, but like structurally or fundamentally, we're still very strong as a project. And then on top of that, we've been talking about, major new features coming out, not just like kind of fun stuff on the side, but like major new chains coming out, depth aggregation, single yield asset, order books, like these are huge innovations and huge advancements, and not just in THORChain, but just like huge advancements in the general DeFi space. And so like maybe that's giving some people, and maybe these whales are kind of getting that sense of like that we're continuing to innovate and push forward, even though it's a bear market and a lot of other projects are kind of falling by the wayside. THORChain is still like, pushing the envelope.
100%.
There's still so much left to be built, like there's really been like, there's so big of a backlog on like features for THORChain that it's just like, it's nonstop, just getting features and, new things out there all the time. And then there's so many teams that are doing it too. Obviously not just the core team, all the other projects, like all the exchanges and the wallets and Nine Realms, like everybody is just grinding super hard, and it's never looked better in the long term like development phase of the project.
Yeah, I mean, we're in like such a great bubble because I mean, crypto Twitter has been like decimated, and like just like the other spaces and just like a lot of other stuff, and it's been so like. It's been so exciting just like seeing THORChain and all these spaces, like, and all the features and just everything rolling along, like if anything faster than when things were bullish. So, it's like, it's just setting everything up for absolute chaos in the best way possible when general macro stuff kind of smooths out.
Yeah. And the other thing that, we've been grinding on is AVAX. AVAX is now on StageNet. So that means probably just, a month or so of testing. I think people kind of have an idea for how long something needs to bake in StageNet to be released to mainnet. Now that we've had, we've had a Doge and Luna, and also Atom bake in StageNet before being released to mainnet. So people kind of have an idea of like how long that process takes, maybe about a month or so. So we're going to see Atom real soon. It's already on StageNet. Things just got to be tested and hardened, and we'll be seeing Atom, which will be released with a awesome aggregator with Pangolin, which we're super excited about.
Yeah, you mean AVAX?
Yep, AVAX.
Yeah, I'm probably going to play around on StageNet and just do a few swaps just for fun, just to see it live. It's always fun to test out the new chain. One thing I'm curious about with AVAX on StageNet and just kind of like the battle testing is like in the past we've had like Thor games, things like that. Like is that sort of stuff necessary in this case, or like how? I mean, of course, I don't understand the technical level, but it's like similar to ETH, of course. So like, is there kind of like a lot of risk to be really tested, or is it more? Is this like a pretty safe and straightforward integration? Would you think? Well,
because it's a fork of the Ethereum code, it's already had lots of time to kind of bake, right, and mainnet for over a year now. So it's pretty well baked already, like the code base itself for the chain integration. So I feel pretty good about it. But that being said, it doesn't mean that there's no, bugs or whatever either, right? So there could be, small changes or small differences between, this chain and the fork of that chain. In AVAX's case, I think it's a pretty straight up clone to my knowledge. But I'm not the one working on that integration, so I'm not quite sure. But like, I mean, I feel pretty good about it, pretty confident about it. But at the same time, you never know. So like, there could always be issues or bugs. You just do the best you can. But I'm not sure if 9realms is going to be running one of those like Thor games on this particular chain integration, because the Atom one we've already done from the Terra integration and it had it audited and all that kind of stuff. And same thing with the AVAX one as a fork of Ethereum, which has also been audited by several teams and been running in production for, a year and 3 months or 4 months, whatever it's been. And so like it's should have a reasonable confidence in that sense.
Sweet. Yeah, Cal. I assume nothing needed from the 9realms side that you've seen.
No, I mean, all the guys are just working, testing it, and I mean, it was just released like 2 days ago to StageNet, but the first successful swap was already made, BNB to native AVAX. So the first ever decentralized swap between native BNB and native AVAX. So there you go. And Eridonis has also given us a demo of the aggregator function, which is just it really is mind blowing. Like he did a swap, like a simulated swap from like a native asset like Bitcoin, I believe, and swapped it to an asset on AVAX C chain, which was that was really mind blowing. They already got that working, so like that'll be shipped out with the launch itself, and it's really cool because there's a lot of enthusiasm for THORChain in the AVAX ecosystem. Like a lot of these dexes are pretty excited to get integrated into with all this native liquidity that we have. So that's why like we're really hyped about it, because we think this is going to be really big for the ecosystem as a whole, because it just brings in a whole swath of new people, new connections, new integrations. It's going to be really good for the THORchads and the Avalanche people. Is there a name for people who love Avalanche?
Good question. I don't know. Maybe somebody in here can tell us.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I don't think I've heard one actually. So so it's going to be a really great bridging of their great dexes like Pangolin, who we're partnering with for this initial aggregator on Avalanche, and it's gonna be freaking awesome.
Yeah, coming out the gate with the aggregator for a new chain, I mean that should definitely like make a big splash. So that's really cool.
Yeah, if you add AVAX, like a DEX aggregator on THORChain, like the number of assets just increased by some percentage, like some large percentage, because there's a bunch of different assets there as well. So like just the more assets that are readily available through the THORChain network and its expanded, DEX integrations, like becomes really huge, really fast.
Sweet. So, Chad, do you want to I kind of want to hear about this order book feature a little bit. I didn't have time to read the thread, obviously. So, do you want to talk about the thread a little bit in here?
Yeah, sure. So, we've been thinking about order books for a while because we've always liked the idea of it, but we're concerned about the implementation, right, and how to make it a practical implementation. And so, there was an implementation that actually was built and coded months and months ago, like 8 months ago or something like this, 9 months ago. And it was scrapped because the way that it functioned wasn't performant enough for the chain. Like it may have caused an issue and caused the blocks to slow down, once there was like a few thousand orders waiting in the order book or something like this. And so we did some analysis on that. We just didn't feel like it was like performed enough to put on chain. And so it was just kind of was scrapped and tossed aside, and then maybe come back to another time or whatever. But also the challenging factor with it was like synthetics, right? Because THORChain is unique relative to any other DEX in the ecosystem, or at least the vast majority of them, almost all of them. It has to maintain economic security of the external assets, right? If you were just like Sushi or a Uni or something like this, like you don't have to worry about economic security. Everything's just kind of built for you in that sense, and you can just have an unlimited supply of TVL. Like there's no cap to it. But in THORChain's case, we have to have a cap to ensure that the economic security is there, till all the assets are safe and secure and won't be a cyber attack or civil attack. And so we can do that. We have to add the BDC into like a pool, right? it can't just sit. The network just can't hold BTC off to the side in some other place and then just like hold it, because that would naturally lose economic security with time. And so we couldn't do that. And so then that's what synths came into play, this idea of synths. But the problem with synths was that the more synths there are on the network, it causes a leverage room position for the LPs. And if you get like, crazy amounts of synths relative to the pool depth, then you can get to pretty high leverage, which maybe that's, not appetizing, not tasty for, LPs in a sense. And so we were kind of scrapped that idea as well, because we didn't want it to be, to cause a risk on LPs. So, because LPs are obviously a first-class citizen. And so we scrapped it for that reason as well, right? Fast forward a bunch of months, and now we are talking about this new single-sided asset yield concept that we've been talking about for a little while. And the innovation there, or one of the innovations there rather, is that the network can take more synths without over leveraging LPs, right? They can maintain the same exposure they have now, and we can mint a bunch more synths, and then the protocol steps in and it becomes more or less like a counterbalance of that risk. And the protocol itself, the reserve, takes that risk on to kind of support the LPs and support the network and support the depth of the pools to get much, much, much deeper, right? So the protocol reserve becomes an LP itself. Now with that idea, now you can have a bunch more synths. Well, that's good news, right? That kind of solves that problem I was referring to in terms of order books. So then once we solved that problem, I was like, well, now we just got to figure out a way to store the order books on chain and make them very efficient in terms of disk space, because blockchains grow very, very hard and very fast. And then also make sure that they're computationally efficient, because in many respects, a blockchain is like a Casio watch in some sense. Like, it's very computationally not very powerful, like blockchains in general this way. Almost all of them are. Even things like Solana are still computationally, that are kind of well known for fast transactions, whatever, but are still computationally very weak relative to like the computational power of like computers today, in a sense, right? So you have to make sure that it's computationally efficient, so that even if you had 100,000 orders or some number of 200,000 or a million orders, whatever, that the network computationally does not get drowned in all that computational requirement, right? And so we finally came up with a solution to that problem as well. How do we make it computationally efficient, right? And so that the network can have an unlimited, more or less, quantity of orders, and does not, it's not, the amount of computational power needed is detached or decoupled from the number of orders on the network, which is exactly the kind of behavior we want. So that was the other innovation we had. And once we had that, like, well, now order books become completely practical. But what makes them so awesome for the network and for the general space of crypto is that this is the first time, like, we don't see order books in general in DeFi. It's very rare. It's in like DYDX is one example, Serum is another example, but like, you just don't see them very much, and that's for a handful of reasons. But one of those reasons is just because you don't have the much computational power to do order books in general. That's why you don't see order books really on Ethereum all that much, and if you do, they're showing not that much volume, and that kind of stuff. But for us, because we're our own app-specific chain, we have a lot more computational power than Ethereum does, and so we can do things that other ones cannot, which is really nice. But because the network is now using synths as the assets that are being stored on chain to execute these orders, you can still do layer one trades where you send in layer one BTC and you say you want to, I'm sending in one BTC and I want to get out X amount of ETH on the other side. And the network just stores that BTC as a synthetic BTC while the order is being waited to executed. So there's a swap that occurs initially just to kind of acquire the synth, and the network kind of holds the synth on their behalf while they're waiting for to execute the order. And then once the BTC price changes or ETH price changes, where the minimum requirement of ETH on the other side is now available because the pool price has changed, then the order is swapped from synthetic BTC to real layer one ETH to their OX address, right? And so you're actually generating twice the amount of yield for LPs because of this, because you're swapping to a synth and then you're holding it on chain for some period of time, and then it's swapping from a synth back to our layer one. If someone's going synth to synth, it's much more efficient in terms of like pricing. But if you're doing layer one to layer one, which should be more expensive because you're putting a lot more pressure on the network to handle layer one transactions versus something internally to THORChain that's a lot more expensive, which it should, but you're paying the network for it. You're paying the LPs, you're paying the node operators. They're getting effectively twice the amount of yield from these order book operations. If you're an arbot or a market maker and you want to be more efficient about it and just use synth to synth right back and forth, then have at it, and the pool is still getting the yield of the trading, but just not double the yield, right? Which is really great. And so because everything is a synth, on top of that, the value of your order while it's being waited to be executed on, it's just liquidity added to the pool, right? So the pools are naturally just getting deep, right? The liquidity of the network's naturally getting deeper as part of this process, right? And because you're providing liquidity into the pool and you're not getting a yield on that because you're just holding a regular synth by itself, any yield that liquidity that you put into the pool as part of your order is now generating a yield, but the yield doesn't go to you as a trader. The yield goes to the LPs. So while you're sitting there for 6 months waiting for the Bitcoin price to drop to buy it at, $10,000 or whatever the amount was, like, you're trying to do, that 6 month period, that capital is generating yield and just being effectively donated to the LPs and to the node operators effectively, right? Which is really great. So now you have an increased amount of liquidity, an increase in pool depth, increased yield for the LPs in many facets. And then you also have an increased trade volume because now people have another method to trade because the network is now much more flexible, much more powerful as a tool. And so now you can migrate from just doing spot trading or market orders to now doing limit orders and market makers and institutions and like an entire new classes of like types of people now can utilize THORChain and inherently get that layer one transactions from one chain to another in a completely decentralized way to access to more people. So the amount of trade volume in the network should naturally increase as well as part of the release of this feature. Just logically speaking, that's true. And so to me, it's like a win-win-win-win-win-win, just because we are just generating more yield for LPs, more yield for nodes, deeper pools, more liquidity, more trade volume. All of that just naturally comes as part of having these order books. Crazy to think about.
Man, that's incredible. It's always consistently mind-boggling how a new feature is being discussed, and it's like, oh yeah, the feature sounds really important, but then you guys managed to find a way to just make it win-win-win-win-win. It's like, oh, not only are we getting order books that allow for so much more volume, because that's why I would imagine that's why most large traders still use centralized exchanges, is so they can just place those orders. So okay, we're getting that. But not only are we getting that, it's like in a way that deepens the liquidity pools potentially massively, which obviously is great for Rune, obviously is great for better swaps because of less slippage, generates more yield for the existing LPs. I mean, this is crazy. It's just such once again, just another crazy flywheel designed into THORChain. So that design sounds pretty mind-boggling.
And you have to think about the idea of we've never seen this before of an order book that is actually a multi-chain order book. We've seen wrapped assets be thrown into order books, which is obviously everybody here knows why that's a problematic concept. But we're seeing for the first time multi-chain order book with real layer one assets, and I can only imagine that's an in-demand system, the protocol that the world would want to see. CeFi dominates the fuck out of order books today, largely because they have the performance required because they're centralized to be able to do what they're trying to do, and they can do cross-chain transactions, right? Or multi-chain transactions across multiple blockchains. Here, we're now supplying that for the first time for the entire industry. And I'm just guessing here. I'm just making a rational guess, but that's something that's hotly in demand and something that people would really respond to. People who are market makers who want to trade and that kind of stuff, set up limit orders and whatever else. That's awesome. That's incredible.
So something like this would be slated after single-sided yield, correct? I believe you mentioned that before.
Yes. So single-sided yield has to land first because that's what allows us to scale the number of synthetics in the pools, right? And on the network. And so we could do it first and that would be fine, but it would just create more synths in the pools, which would hit the cap, which was, I don't think we probably want to do it in that order, just no reason to. So we'll probably land the single-sided yield first, which in its own right is like a massive feature that changes everything. And then once that lands, we can follow it with the order book stuff, which will just, once again, another massive feature that just changes the game.
Yeah, these are both like, basically THORFi level excitement coming back. This is huge.
Yeah, and THORFi still exists too, by the way. So it's like that still may happen as well. So we just have these. I mean, it's almost mind-boggling to think about these. I mean, dex is like gargantuan. It's like a huge game changer, creating like easy to access all assets of crypto is just like something we've never had in the industry in a decentralized way. When so like that just by itself is massive. The single yield, massive order books. I think that's just going to be also super massive. Like, I don't know, THORFi. Like we have so many things planned that are just too exciting that it just makes me super excited and just want to like get into the code and start like ripping shit out.
Yeah, it always feels like to me like THORChain is just kind of like going down a list of these like massive successful centralized products and just kind of like checking off the list of like, yep, we can do that decentralized and better. And then the next thing like trading, yeah, we can do that. Oh, potentially lending. Yep, we can do that. Order books. Yep, we can potentially do that. Single-sided yield. It's like all of these things that have been the most kind of successful products in crypto that have ended up being centralized. It feels like THORChain is just going down the list, knocking them out, which is insane.
I had a funny conversation with somebody. I won't say who because I probably shouldn't, but let's just say this person works for a well-known CeFi platform that is not doing so well right now. We'll just put it that way. And I was telling him about, I was like, hey, you guys heard about like THORFi? I was like, oh no, what's that about? And I kind of like gave him the rundown of like what THORFi is and what it can do in like single asset yield, interest accounts and lending and all these things. And then his face went like a bit white and he said to me, this is what he actually, like verbatim what he actually said. He's like, oh, so you're doing what we do, just decentralized.
and he thought, exactly. Man, they're gonna put us out of business.
That's like you could see like the kind of like his face just got like, oh my gosh, like you could see it in his face that he was just like concerned in that moment. Like I almost like had to hold in the laughter like, internally. Like I just had to like I could see in his face that he was like, oh my gosh. But like now we're doing the order book thing too. It's just like it's another big component of centralized finances, order books and lending and like interest accounts and these things like that is largely for the most part dominated by the CeFi space. And I think we have the opportunity where we are positioned better than any other project in the space by a good margin to be able to decentralize those services in a trustworthy and transparent and fully open standards.
So Chad, before you hopped on, me and Chad THOReau were discussing something and an idea that I had for this order book feature. To include is like it feels like it's part of the same framework, right? Would be like TWAP buys, basically like averaging in to a position using like the same, like a similar logic to this order book where it would split up. You'd specify like an end block height and end time and the amount of buys that it would do, and it could just take your position and average in buys, basically using a similar logic to this order book feature. And I feel like something like that just complements this order book feature really well.
Yeah, you're saying the idea of like, I'll put in one BDC, whatever, and I want to slowly kind of like almost like DCA or dollar cost average my way into, either a stable or ETH or like whatever other asset.
Or anything, yeah.
Or anything. Or starting with, maybe a stable coin and say, oh, I just want to dollar cost buy into Bitcoin, into Ethereum, into Rune, or like whatever over time, and then network just executes it on that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the reason why we couldn't build that.
I think it'd be cool. Well, once again, that's like kind of another big centralized exchange feature right now, right? Like a lot of people set up like weekly or daily or monthly or whatever buys within Coinbase or whatever they're using. So that'd be kind of interesting. You just like set aside a bunch of USDC or something and buy, X number of USDC worth of Rune or BTC or whatever every day or week. Could be cool.
Yeah, that could work. Totally work.
Cool. Should we open up to some audience questions?
Yeah, sure. Anyone wants to come up, just hit the button in the bottom left to request to come up, and we'll let you ask a question about anything. It could be about order books, single-sided yield feature, Atom launch, AVAX launch. AVAX is now on StageNet, and really anything else.
I'll tell a funny story while we're waiting for somebody to raise their hand. In Dennis knows what I'm talking about, so I won't say who said this, but we were talking to a Dex at some point in the past, and trying to tell them about THORChain and why declaration matters, blah, 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 and being able to trade Bitcoin on their Dex, blah, 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 and all these things. And they had the most like silliest perspective. Like it was comical to me just because like there was another Dex that's a competitor to them on the same ecosystem, and they're like, the only reason why people use that Dex is because they're too stubborn to use our Dex. Which just made me laugh just because it's such almost like a really cocky thing to say. And then they also said, like, we're not sure if we want to do integrate with Bitcoin and all these other things, because it's like when you go to a restaurant and there's like a foreign cuisine, like you never buy the foreign cuisine because it's not going to be as good. You buy the local thing. And I was just like, that's one of the dumbest analogies I've ever heard. That does not make any sense in the context of this conversation, because we are still just giving people access to the same things they would get in the foreign cuisine if you were in those foreign countries. Like, it was one of the most ridiculous conversations I've had in a while. And it's like, to me, sometimes it feels like when I'm talking to some of these decks, some of them get it, and they're just like, they're totally down and everything just goes very smoothly. And sometimes they don't. And when they don't, it just feels like that THORChain is so ahead of the curve of like what's happening in DeFi that like people haven't even really recognized the direction of the market, or the direction of DeFi. And it's just like they're just sitting in a world where there's like very narrowly scoped and narrowly viewed. They don't understand the larger market.
That actually reminds me when we were in Austin at the multi-chain expo, there was some people there that were from some, well, we'll just call them competitors of THORChain. They were like, you know, I was talking with them and they were saying like, oh, like, I was like, oh, like, you know, what are you doing? I said, oh, you know, we're like, you know, your competitors or whatever. So I like looked up their service, and it's all just, it's like it's just another like one of 10,000 EVM bridges that that anyone could use to just swap across EVM chains, like of which like none of these are really particularly that special. And I was just like, oh, they like, and like, there's so many people that just don't understand yet.
Yeah, like almost every like quote cross chain project, it's like, oh, we connected a few EVMs that have already been connected by a bunch of other people. No offense to those projects, but it is funny. Sometimes I get into it occasionally on Twitter, like people just be like, oh, I mean, like, you know, there's not any activity on Bitcoin. Like, you know, everything's happening on these other like new alternative L1s. And like, I'm not sure it's like, it matters to connect to Bitcoin. Because nobody's doing that, and it's like, well, nobody's doing it because you can't do it outside of THORChain right now. But like, that is of course the most important thing.
Yeah, I remember talking to that guy on Twitter, and he was just like, maybe one day we'll connect to Bitcoin, but it's like low priority. And I was just like, low priority? Like the biggest, most important asset in the entire space. And you're just like, no, it doesn't matter. And I'm just like, dude, what are you talking about? It made me laugh so hard.
All right, we got Arno up here. What's up?
Hey guys, good morning. As always, great job on everything. I love the new features. I do want to talk about something that hasn't been discussed today, and I have thrown around like a few months before, but I think we may be sleeping on something here. THORChain has this amazing capability to swap layer 1 tokens for one another. And I think in the crypto space right now, we could use some sort of a backend plugin developed by THORChain devs to allow merchants, say OpenSea or whatever, pick a merchant, to be like, hey, you want to pay with whatever crypto, use your, let's say, Doge, but we want to receive Bitcoin. Right now, that's clunky. You have to transfer, you have to swap, you have to do it on your own. But I think having a plugin or developing one that merchants can incorporate into their code that will allow any user to pay with whatever currency they want, and the merchant will receive whatever currency they want. I think that would be a huge catalyst to THORChain. I think we may be sleeping on it. I also think that merchants won't develop that themselves. I think it should be down to THORChain developers to create a toolkit like that. Do you guys see potential? I mean, I clearly see the potential, but it has to be a shared vision, obviously. So if you guys see potential, would you be interested in doing that? And then, are we talking, what kind of a timeline would you consider, even be like maybe in the year or so? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so the network itself fundamentally already supports the concept of what you're talking about. But if somebody wanted to have that, my recommendation is that somebody in the THORChain community build a new project called THORChain, payments or whatever the name you want to call it. And so it just becomes another project on top of the THORChain ecosystem that's just that's solving a different problem, which is, like, in your case, payments, right? And so that's totally possible. And the network already supports the general idea of it. So if you get the idea, build a team, get some funding and start building out this idea.
Yeah, it also does have a lot in common, I think, with the THORswap Pathfinder API coming up.
Of course, I was rugging heavy, so I couldn't hear most of that answer, and the space isn't recorded, which makes me sad. But I'll hang in and try to. Sorry about that.
Oh shoot!
It's recorded, Arno. You'll be able to come back and listen to the recording later.
Yeah,
TLDR, someone can build this easily.
Awesome. I think that would be amazing.
It looks like the space might not be recorded the normal way this time. I'm not sure if maybe you missed it.
So they changed the way you have to save the recording afterwards. You don't specify to save it before.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
well, once it ends, I just have to click the button to save it. So yeah.
Yeah, we're recording as well. It'll be on Runebase. But yeah, no, I was just going to say, the THORswap Pathfinder API kind of is pretty similar to what you're describing. I do think there could be a separate project that really focuses on that and just does payments, making it really simple. But I do think that's part of the goal with the THORswap API is not just to get complex dexes or wallets to integrate it, but also just potentially a project that wants to allow essentially a swap from anything into what the receiver needs, right? So I think that could be a cool thing in making it as simple as possible.
Right, simple in the background, the user, the client, shouldn't have to do anything, and the merchant shouldn't have to do anything. Everything just magically happens, powered by THORChain.
Yeah, I know the goal is definitely, at least just speaking on the THORswap API side, the goal is definitely to make it as product in a box as possible. I'm sure that still requires some dev setup from the integrator, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that'd be awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Arno. We got Fagoj.
Hello, guys.
Hey.
So first of all, I want to give a special shout out to the LP University guys. They've really been helping me in learning about everything about THORChain for the past few days and weeks, if I might say. So I just have a couple of questions. Number one, Shad mentioned something about the single-sided LP contributing to the success of the other books via Sense. I didn't really catch that very well. I didn't really understand what he meant by that. So then the second question is with regards to the reserve, the single-sided LP. I believe that, for it to work, we need to source the rune side of the LP from the reserve. So I'm like, is there a particular cap for that? Because if you allow everybody to come and, kind of deposit their single asset, we're definitely going to see a lot of assets, which is very good for the ecosystem. But then will that be able to match to the amount of tokens that we have in the reserve? So I'm looking at the aspect of the caps, the amount of rune that we can source from the reserve to support that's the 50% side of the LP on the single-sided LP strategy that we're about to launch. And then secondly, how the single-sided LP contributes to the success of the other Sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so a couple of things. The reserve itself has, I think, 170 million rune in it or something close to this, which is, I think 3 or 4 or 5x or how the number is to the actual bonded liquidity or TVL. So there's more than enough rune in there to handle what it is that you're referring to. I'm not terribly concerned about that, especially over the long run, because in the long run, rune's prices, and this is my own 2 cents, but rune's price will outperform the gas assets of all these chains just because the market cap is much smaller than Bitcoin and Ethereum and these things. And so it's a lot easier for rune to outperform it. So over the long term, I'm not really terribly concerned about that. But just to tease something to the community a little bit, there's been some research lately, and there's an issue on GitLab. This but it was open recently around the idea of using synthetic rune and also as a counterbalance to this synthetic asset. And so we've shied away from it in the past because there's some difficulty with it, and that being more mathematically complex than it sounds like. And there's still more research that needs to be done. So I'm not guaranteeing anything or saying this is going to happen tomorrow or anything like this. But anybody who wants to read the GitLab issue, it's on GitLab. It's publicly available. And so in this concept, if this were to happen, anybody can contribute their rune to this system and to become synthetic rune effectively. And then you earn yield in the pool while only being exposed to the rune asset. And so now you're earning rune on your rune. And so if you get in this issue where you have all this Bitcoin there and you need a lot of rune to support that synthetic Bitcoin, not only does the protocol reserve have more than enough rune to do so, but the community can come together and LPs can just become single-sided LPs on the rune side and earn rune on their rune, as well as to handle that scenario. So that might happen. Again, it still requires more research and more verification, and initial math looks good, but it still needs more kind of vetting. And so I'm actually hoping that the community will poke it at the community pretty soon and let the community kind of poke at it and let us know if there's something that we've missed or some problem with it that we haven't thought of already or we're not.
Yeah. Actually, I think I was one of the people that was requesting for such a feature because we have people that are eager to deposit their assets. They don't want exposure on Rune. And then we have people like us, or let me say me, in this context, who really believes in the long term of Rune. I really want to, supply my Rune as a single asset and earn Rune as well, because I believe in the project. I believe in the sustainability of the ecosystem. I believe that at the end of the day, this is something that a lot of projects are going to, end up using. It's something very important. It's the holy grail of crypto, like we normally say. So I believe in the project. I believe in Rune as a token. So I want to have a place where I don't need to, get some kind of impermanent gain on my Rune because I'm pairing it to the stablecoin. I want to kind of, in a way, stake my Rune because that is what I see it as. You supplying, depositing a single-sided Rune is like staking your Rune and getting Rune as reward. So if these people don't want any exposure on Rune, we do. Well, let me say I do. So they can bring their asset. I'm ready to bring my Rune. I just have to get the bigger portion of the rewards.
Yes. Yeah. That's something the community has been dying for a long time, and we just haven't figured out a way to do that in a way that economically makes sense. And I think we've now figure out a way to get synthetic rune to actually work, because the problem with synthetic rune is that if you add some synthetic Bitcoin to the pool, and then I add an equal amount of synthetic rune on the other side, it actually increases the risk to LPs and their leveraged rune position. It doesn't decrease it, and that's the reason why we didn't do it in the past, because it just increases the risk of synths on the LPs rather than reducing the risk. As counterintuitive that might sound to people, but the math just kind of plays out that way. And so we had to do some kind of tricky things with the math to get it to actually go in the other direction, to be a counterweight instead of further exaggerated. But I mean, if you think about it in the context of, like, if you have a Venn diagram and you have these two circles, one's Bitcoin and one's Rune, and the Bitcoin pool is people who aren't BTC on the BTC, and the Rune is the one people want to Rune the Rune, and in the middle you have these people who want to earn both Rune and Rune together, and that kind of a relatively small little sliver between those two circles in that Venn diagram, allowing people to get to be either one circle, the other circle, or be the union of those two circles. It was kind of like, in some ways, is a holy grail unto itself, just because it allows everybody to participate in this network in a way that makes sense for them, whatever that might be, without needing to compromise on what they actually want to experience, which is I think that's pretty large.
Yeah, that was great. I think I get that. So on my other question, I was asking you, mentioned something about the single-sided LPs, contributing to the success of the order book, the decentralized order book that you guys are trying to, come up with. So I didn't really catch that. I don't understand how that's going to work. You mentioned something about a single-sided LP contributing to the scenes, and then the order book, the combination, the mashup, the entire thing, how it's going to work. I didn't really catch that. Please, can you just go back on that?
Yeah, so it's not so much LPs. Technically speaking, what's actually happening is that when you're providing an asset, right, on an order book, and you're waiting for the order to be executed, the asset you're providing in one way or another is just contributing to the depth of the pool. But you're not really an LP in a traditional sense of it. You're just like, I'm providing capital to the pool. I'm getting guarantees that my capital is going to stay the same value. So, I put in 100 Rune, or I put in, 100 ETH or whatever, and I'm going to maintain that value. I'm going to get 100 ETH back. But you're not getting the yield that capital produces in the pool of that, in that pool. So, from your perspective, you're not really providing capital, although fundamentally that actually is happening underneath the covers, underneath the hood. You're just like, oh, I'm putting in some BDC and then waiting for the price to change to where BDC is worth, $15,000 per coin, and then executing a trade to acquire some stables or buy some BDC or sell it or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, whatever price range. So yeah, it is a bit complicated in terms of like how it functions and works, but my intention and hope is that it's still very simple for the user to utilize, because all they need to understand is, I'm putting in some Bitcoin. There are some fees associated with this, which is fine, but I'm just saying I'm putting one BDC and I want to get out, 200 ETH or some number, or whatever the number would be, 110 ETH or whatever it is. Like, that's just all that's going on from your perspective as a trader in the order book, but underneath the hood, there's a lot of math that's happening.
Sweet. I hope that answers your question. If anyone else wants to come up, hit the request button on the bottom left. Is it? All right. He's good. We have Jimmy up here. Hey, Jimmy. So we can go to push-up.
Hey, guys. What's up? I just had a question on how do affiliate fees work on interfaces that allow users to provide liquidity, and how might it work when single-sided LPs come in, and maybe how do affiliate fees work for swaps?
Yeah, so affiliate fees are just built into the into the memo. So when you do a liquidity add or a swap, it just takes off a specified portion. So that's also included in the memo, is how much of a percentage of that swap or liquidity add to give to the affiliate. So it adds in basis points. So, 100 is 1%. So that it specifies how much of the deposit to give, and also where to send it to. So you can use a Thor name for that, or just a regular Thor address. And whenever you make a swap on a front end interface that has an affiliate fee, when it constructs the memo to send your transaction, it includes that, parameter with the affiliate address and the percentage that they're taking.
Okay. And what are the typical fees like for liquidity providers?
So there's interfaces that are free. There's Chad, do you know what THORswap charges?
It's free for LPs. The only affiliate fees charged on THORswap right now are for swaps, and that's 0.3%.
Yep.
But yeah, as you were saying, yeah, like an interface could choose to charge for ads of LP. I'm actually not sure if any of the current ones are doing that. But they definitely
that there is revenue from that. But I'm not sure who is doing that exactly. I guess if it's not, I thought THORswap must have been if there was revenue from it. So I guess not.
It might be Thor Wallet. I hope I'm not incorrect saying that, but I feel like that sounds familiar. But it's definitely not THORswap. Unless I'm very mistaken.
Part of the point of like having affiliate fees on the LP ads was just so that you would incentivize like centralized exchanges and like your BlockFis and your Celsius types to provide liquidity and then earn a yield on that liquidity that they're adding for their customer base. I think that was probably the use case more so than like a wallet per se, although a wallet could do it too. Like, it's up to them to decide for themselves.
Yeah, and there's also plenty of front ends that have no trading fee, no affiliate fees enabled at all. Like DeFi Spot and AsgardX are both great front ends that you can use without any kind of affiliate fees.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was just thinking of like a simple interface for maybe like Bitcoin maxis to, just interact and provide liquidity for their Bitcoin, connect their wallet, and they don't need to be overwhelmed with everything else that's going on, in the THORChain world. If all they care about is getting yield on their Bitcoin, and of course, that that will probably work better when they're single-sided LPs.
Yeah, it's definitely an opportunity for more projects to spring up. Like you can just kind of like package part of THORChain into some super simple interface. Like it could just be deposit BTC and earn yield. You could charge like 0.1% or whatever you feel, but it could definitely be like its own interface and just make things super simple and straightforward for like different target audiences.
Yeah, I actually proposed this idea to Nine Realms to build, because they're always looking for something they can build on top just to kind of generate some revenue for that company, and so they can pay salaries and such. But like just having simple, clean, easy to use UIs where you can just like log in with your ledger or whatever, and then just add liquidity or like BDC only, like is super clean and simple. It might attract a different type of user.
Yeah, I feel like something like that would work, especially when we talk about, single-sided LP, especially for Bitcoin, is maybe the holy grail of all of this. And if they don't want to worry about, how everything works with other chains and all they want to do is get yield for their Bitcoin, I think that would be perfect. But thanks, everyone.
Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Kadesh here.
Hey.
Hi, Chad. For affiliate fees, I just wanted to state my observation. I think THORSwap charges 0.3%. DeFi Sport is free. Thor Wallet is about 0.3% as well, but based on tiers. So if you have a Thor guard or something like, sorry, not a Thor guard, but one of their NFTs, you have a reduced percentage of the fee that is charged as well. I think there's another one called Fairs Wallet. It's also free. I think those are the major platforms that I use from time to time. That was just my observation I wanted to make.
Yeah, there's
I believe
Rango as well. I'm not sure what Rango does.
I'm not sure what Rango does as well too.
I think Ringo has some other fee structure. I'm not sure they're charging a THORChain affiliate fee specifically, but there's some kind of other fee they're charging. Maybe not if it's only a THORChain path that you're using. I believe Thor Wallet, it was a bit higher than that, but maybe not. And just to clarify one thing on the THORSwap side, so far, if you've had any VTHOR at all, then you waive the fee entirely, and that's going to transition into like a tiered system as well. So there will be some kind of changes over time.
Cool. Jimmy, you there now?
Oh yeah, you called on me before? My bad.
Oh yeah, it's all good. What's up?
I just think that everyone should understand this. THORChain is the future, right? THORChain is the future. And if you don't believe that, you don't understand the technology. Everyone respects THORChain. Everyone, even Bitcoiners. You got to get on THORChain bandwagon right now, or else you're going to be forgotten. This is the Oregon Trail. And currently, THORChain is the head bandwagon. You got to get there. But if you don't get there fast enough, you don't get on the wagon, the Indians are in attack, kill you. So get there fast, get to the end of the Oregon Trail. Thank you.
What do you know?
Yeah, thank you for that very profound insight.
Thank you for that. Yeah, let's go to Total Value Lock.
Hi, guys. So I had an observation that is kind of really important to me, and I wanted to mention it. And I have tried to contact and write it here and there, but I think this is the best place to mention it. After seeing the success of the UST and BUSD, in terms of volume, it's like really clear that we need cheap stable coins in terms of fees. And USDC on AVAX can be our chance. And I just wanted to know that, do we have any plans to support USDC on AVAX when we launch the AVAX chain?
That's certainly possible. There hasn't been any kind of explicit conversation about that I'm aware of, at least. But there is an intention, at least that I have, that I'm kind of advocating for and pushing for, is that we want to have a lot of different stables on the system, because stables can give more power to the arbitrage bots to arbitrage, as well as give more of a price feed to the network of how much the dollar value of Rune is, which is helpful in many different ways and forms, especially on the THORFi side of things. So yeah, I'm hoping that that'll be the case, right? Imagine a scenario where ETH needs to be paused for some reason. There's some sort of, like, there was a Geth problem a few months ago that we had to pause ETH for a little while. And by doing so, we kind of lose the price oracle of those stables on ETH. And so it's good to have, multiple stables on multiple different chains like BNB, ETH, AVAX, whatever else gets added downstream. So it just makes the network more resilient and kind of healthier and more reliable. And so I'm all for it personally.
Yeah, because I come from the osmosis part, and in osmosis, what happened with the UST, it was great for the ecosystem, and when it went down, it was terrible for the ecosystem. But in any DEX, in any central exchange, you guys know it way better than me, that stable coins are the majority of the volume. Those pairs are super important. And right now, the way to get into THORChain on a cheap stable coin is only BUSD. And that one is on BEP2. And basically, if you don't have Binance, you're kind of screwed. There are a couple of no-name exchanges like Mexi and those guys who have BEP2 and BNB and those things, but it's for the average person who cares about the fees and wants to enter the ecosystem and wants to get out, or wants to do a lot of swaps and stuff, or to park it in the stable coins. Having a cheaper stable coins we have seen it on any DEX, it's super important. And I'm so excited about the AVAX and what you guys have been doing. And I just see this opportunity, and I'm just hoping every day that we get the USDC on AVAX also.
So I brought up Eridanis from Nine Realms, who's doing the integration
that's my
for
guy.
AVAX. So yeah, that's my guy too. So hey, what's up, Eridanis?
How's it going, guys? Yeah, to answer the question, so basically each chain integration has a whitelist of tokens. And currently, the AVAX integration is still going under final review. There are no tokens whitelisted, but we have tested the integration with having ERC20s on AVAX, and everything is functional on that regard. So yeah, I'm super open to, and I think the community is super open to whitelisting some stable coins. I think it's just about what is the stable coin that has the most demand from the community. Which ones do we want? We don't want to go whitelist every stable coin if they're not going to be used. So it's a quick follow-up PR to do that whitelisting. Yeah, if there's a push to get USDC whitelisted, we can do that. I know there's USDC.E, I know there's USDT, there's USDT.E. So there's a lot of them out there. We just got to think about which is the right one. And yeah, we can absolutely get those whitelisted.
That's awesome. So by seeing the number of exchanges and how many of them have a stable coin out and in terms of the withdrawal and deposit, I think USDC on AVAX C chain has one of the highest rate of the presence. It's on crypto.com, it's on Binance, it's on Binance US, it's on Coinbase, it's on everything that I can think of, the KuCoin and everything. USDC.E is a little bit less here and there, but USDC on AVAX, that's a great way to take many of these DEX guys to kind of bring their stables. And these guys are small guys, they have 500 and they want to do LP or swaps, and for them this fee matters, especially in the long run. So I think this is the biggest contribution that I can do, because I had this observation of a stablecoin and how important it is in any DEX or centralized exchange. Sorry if I talked about it too much. I just wanted to be heard.
No, absolutely. It's a great call out. Yeah, and THORChain needs stable coins to, do the sensing logic of prices of Rune and USDC. So yeah, absolutely. I'll take a look at USDC versus the other stable coins, and again, it's a quick PR, so I'll look into it. Thanks for the call out.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool. Thanks for coming up, Eridanis. Don't wrap your Bitcoin. Hey.
Hi guys. My question was regarding, will there be single-sided staking for Rune? And when is single-side staking for BTC going through? And my final question, it's not a question, it's a comment to Chad. Thanks for thanks for commenting on regarding the Tor USD. That was a killer, and thank you for everything that you've done.
No, you're welcome, man. Yeah, so the initial design of single-sided yield was only for the asset side, not for Rune. In its current implementation, that's still true today. But there was a new design that was just kind of considered this week, which is brand spanking new, and so that still requires more research and verification before we kind of put our weight behind it in a sense. But like that new design makes it possible for people to earn Rune in their room without having minimum on caps, like minimum amount of Rune, or needing to run infrastructure. It comes like a very simple way for people to be able to just throw Rune on the network up, and just like it's kind of like a delegated proof of stake, but not delegated proof of stake at all. It's just like the conceptual idea of just like, oh, I have some Rune, just lock it up, and then I get more Rune in the room. But you're doing it in a way that you're actually contributing value to the network and contributing purpose that somebody else is willing to pay you for. So it's actually economically makes sense. So that might happen. I'm not promising at this point yet. It still requires more research, but I hope that it does, because it'd be really great for the community.
Thank you.
Cool. We have one last speaker up here. If anyone else, this is, I guess, the last call for anyone that wants to come up. We have Chilanguido. What's up?
Hey guys, how are you? One of my question if I can buy some THOR tokens with my credit card or fiat coins. Thank you.
Rune's definitely available on a bunch of centralized exchanges, and you could probably buy with a credit card right there. If you're in the EU, I think you can directly on Thor Wallet if you want native Rune, or if you're just trying to buy on a centralized exchange, it's supported by, Binance and Kraken, Crypto.com, a bunch of other ones too.
But I mean, I wanna do more specific about my question. I would like to try it on decentralized exchange. This is possible or not yet?
Check out Thor Wallet. They just announced their no KYC up to $100,000 per year. On off ramp service. So I'm not sure if that's available yet, but definitely check out Thor Wallet and see if they're see if you can make use of them.
All right, thank you so much.
And by the way, I think that only works in Switzerland. Like I think it only works with, doesn't work with US dollars. I think it only works with was it francs, Swiss francs, or whatever the fiat currency is there.
Yeah, I believe something like that.
So you need a bank that supports that kind of asset. So it works for some people, but not for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other DEXs that support, a fiat buy though. Yeah. All right. Prime Directive.
Hey, I'm okay if you want to answer this offline, slightly off topic, but at THORstarter yesterday, we did a great AMA with Maya, and I guess due to the change, the Twitter Spaces change with the recording, we thought we lost it, but I think it was, you said earlier that after the recording, you can select a feature to publish it or something like that. Could you give me just a little guidance on that? And once again, if you don't want to just do that offline, it's fine.
Yeah, when you end the space, it'll ask whether you want to save the recording or not. Before, you had to specify before you started the space. Now, after you end it, you can say whether it's saved or not.
Okay.
You can DM me privately, and I can try and help you pull the recording.
Okay, awesome. That would be great. I'm figuring since it's the day after, I'll just talk to you offline. Thank you a lot for that.
Sure. All right, that's everybody. Any last words of wisdom from the squad up here?
What, I haven't given you enough already?
I'm just trying to get whatever I can get, man.
I think I've got my fix of things to be excited about.
Yeah, it's never ending.
It's an alpha.
Yeah, Adam. Well, I guess for anyone that hasn't been here from the beginning, Adam is live. You can trade native Adam right now on THORChain. You can provide liquidity, and it'll take a while for the yield to kind of stabilize, because right now it's just a lot of liquidity ads, and there's a couple swaps, so a lot of it's just noise. Who knows where the APY ends up? But it'll take a week or two to get a better idea of what the actual yield of that pool is. So if you're looking at it on the THORswap or something like that, then just know that that's a these are all calculated with real data, and the pool has been live for like 36 hours. So the actual yields of the pool are, inaccurate for the first period of time that the pool is live. So just keep that in mind if you're looking to add liquidity for Atom. But yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw like one of the LPs. I was just looking at the math of in the very beginning, and like some of the LPs were making like 10% yield already, just because the pool was so shallow that the fees were so high. This is before that 1.5 million thing came in. I was looking at a couple of the LPs, and they were making like, even though the pool was only like 20K deep, it was like very, very, very shallow. But because it was so shallow, the fees were so high, and so they were making good money on it, like as an APY, right? Which was pretty cool to see. But you're right, like every time we had a new chain, or even a new asset, like it's going to take a couple of weeks for things to kind of like iron out in terms of where things are going to sit, and so be a little patient.
Yeah, it's not like an incentivized farming pool where it's just like forced to be 100% APY like immediately and then scale down. So this is real stuff. So it'll take some time to kind of stabilize with liquidity coming in and swap volume picking up.
I think we saw it took, like when THOReau was added, if you look at the chart of how long it took for THOReau to reach its peak liquidity on THORChain, which ended up hitting like 50 million. It took probably like 3 to 4 weeks for that to actually happen. So it's all just a function of time, and as time goes on, more swaps happen. The pool gets a better idea of like what the actual yield is for LPs. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking about adding liquidity and you're like, well, what's up with the yield right now? Because it was just added like yesterday. So yeah, I think that's it. So thanks everyone for coming out. We're here on Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, see you next week.
Later, guys. See ya.